1 second.
It's all up to you. I will remember that. My YouTube says,
Okay.
watch live.
Oh,
See
okay.
it shine.
Okay, we're good now.
Okay.
Yes.
Everyone ready? Okay. Welcome to the regular meeting, Shockton City Council, Tuesday, June 16, 2020. Call to order at 7:00 p.m. Roll call, all council members are present. Pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilmember Proud, and invocation will be led by Jeff Alvarado.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing. Heavenly Father, we just come before you, we just thank you for all the blessings you have given us, and we thank you, Lord, for watching over us. And we also ask that you just continue giving us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and guide us, Lord, in Jesus' name. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Proud, second by Councilmember Gibbons.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. Okay, public comments. Public comments is open, and do we have that one?
We did have a request, but I do not see that he has logged on. We will give him a couple seconds if you don't mind.
Should we go through our council announcements and reports and then come back to this?
If you prefer to do that, that's fine.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to council announcements and report, and we'll start with Councilmember Gibbons.
It's not going to help that I said that. I didn't tell you nothing to report at this time.
All right, Councilmember Garcia.
Nothing at this time.
Councilmember Proud.
Yeah, I'd like to mention on this Friday, the executive forum is being held with the Zoom, and I did sign up for it, and it allows us then to have publications or tapes that we can get later. So if anyone's interested and I see something that's really valued, they're running it 3 different Thursdays if you didn't notice. So I'll keep you posted as to what comes out of it.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Got nothing at this time.
Okay, I just want to say that, well, after the year's gone by already. Jeez. And I just want to say, wanted to say, thank you to all of our public safety officers, our police officers for doing such a good job and keeping us safe, and also city staff for under these circumstances that things are moving around and changes that are occurring and different locations, everybody's gonna move to different locations, and they're not just at their new locations and way of doing business. I just want to say thank you for their patience and their understanding to our community, the folks of our community. Sometimes, they don't understand what's going on internally, and sometimes, but I just want to say to staff, thank you very much for their patience. So that's all I have to report, and then we'll go back to public comments. Is that
No public comments at this time.
okay? So public comments is closed, and we'll go ahead and move on to consent calendar. If everyone just take a quick glance, if there's anything else that you wish to discuss, which we can pull and discuss it, or not, can I get a motion for approval?
I will make a motion to approve consent calendar as read. I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Gibbons and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes,
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. Yes, moving on to public hearing. Number one item on there is ordering annual levy of assessment for landscaping and lighting district.
Through the Mayor and Council, this is an annual administrative matter that is required to have a public hearing. Our Public Works Director, Michael James, will make the staff report to you. Mike, you want to call?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Chaffin City Council, in order to fund existing landscaping lighting districts for next fiscal year, the city needs to
He's
perform.
speaking. No, he's
Can
speaking.
you hear me okay?
Mike, stand by. We're having some technical difficulties.
Already tested this.
Mm-hmm.
We can have someone else try to speak and see if it comes through. It could be on his end.
Let me unmute him. I think he's trying to log. Won't let me unmute him.
Start more. See what we got. See if Mike James can reconnect. So he's unmuted now.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? This is Scott Wiggins.
I think
He's
he's,
not right. He's trying to reconnect.
I think he's trying to reconnect. No, he's right there. Mike,
Hey,
would you mind reconnecting?
Okay, you need me to kick out? All right.
And oh, Wiggins is trying to talk too.
Yeah, you can't hear me, can you?
And they're saying they can hear each other.
How about now?
We can't hear him.
Change the mic.
Yeah, I did that already.
And it's the X1 X1D
Mhm.
speakers in the system.
I changed that too.
That was set correctly.
Yeah, it was. Mhm.
Can you hear us now?
Meeting ID? Is it 838-774?
I could not tell you.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah,
can you dial in on a phone?
I'm trying to right now.
Okay.
But it's legal fee, right? Yes, 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 yes.
We,
I can come back tomorrow.
I think he,
I
think Gilbert likes.
yeah,
to-
I mean, we tested it prior to the meeting.
Were you really? Bruce? And Mark.
Kind of waiting for somebody to.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, you're muted. Oh,
Can you hear me, Yasmina?
You're in Golden. we can move on to the management reports and then come back while we were able to get Michael.
Okay, let's go ahead and move to management reports. Number one, Bakersfield College scholarship, emergency revised to qualification.
So the Mayor Council, I'll introduce the item. This is related to our scholarship program now with Bakersfield College. As we know, COVID-19 has created a situation that not only schools, but colleges are doing most, if not all of their courses online. And so that requires us to make a minor adjustment to our scholarship program. And our director, David, will make the presentation in terms of the details. David?
Yes, he is on and
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Let me take my receiver for a second.
Yasmina, you can't hear me, can you?
I can continue. So, Mayor and Council, a little bit by way of background, the scholarship program that we have with the College Foundation. Currently, each student receives $250, and the eligibility criteria requires that they graduate from the prior year from Shafter High. They have to maintain a 2.5 or higher GPA and enroll in at least one Bakersfield class in
Because right now
Shafter.
it would have disappeared.
The program one is to provide an incentive to all students to achieve good grades in high school, even if they're not expected to receive competitive scholarships,
We're good.
and also increase offerings of Bakersfield College's here. As I said, because of
So that
COVID-19,
was before.
Bakersfield, like a lot of other schools and universities, have shifted to online. And so with that, we
leave
make
it
a minor modification to our program, and that is to allow our students to be able to attend classes online versus in campus. So right now, the criteria that they have to attend a class in
We
Shafter
ever go to
in
the
order to
control panel?
qualify. But because there's no in-person classes, we want to make the modification to the criteria that allows the student, so long as they're enrolled in college, Bakersfield College, online, that they're still eligible. So that's mainly the
Mike, did you
recommendation.
disconnect your dial-in?
Modification that would allow students to still receive the $250
Right now, when
scholarship.
you do it.
They still couldn't hear me.
They didn't unmute you though. I was just telling them your phone number because I saw you were still muted on the panel. Can you
There
go
are
ahead and dial
some
back in?
alternatives that we looked at, and that is obviously not making the revision. Oh, by the way, this is a temporary revision to the criteria, just while Bakersfield College is online only. Once eventually we go back to in-person classes, we would lift that eligibility criteria and make it that they have to go back to in person. So it's just interim while Bakersfield College is under this situation. So we're not recommending to make a permanent revision to the program. Maintain the current criteria and not allow for for online classes. We're also not recommending that alternative. So what we are recommending is that we make the temporary modification to the criteria to allow students to be able to take courses online, and so long as they're taking online classes and register that they are still eligible for the scholarship.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council?
I'd like to make a motion.
Mike, Yasmina just got my message. Are you dialing in?
I did before and then
Believe it, I'm still
it unmuted.
Yeah, they had you muted, it looked like. Can you dial back in? Let them see if they can unmute you.
All right.
See if we can get Mike to speak.
The Learning Center? Yes.
So does this portion of the learning center have to be closed if we have barriers up to allow people to still use computers?
So
I assume there's a whole criteria for disinfecting and what have you. Just curious.
Yeah, so that is something that as we continue to reopen more of our services, is how do we allow for those safety measures? So under the CARES money, which is one of the items right here, that may allow us some financial means to be able to make modifications to the learning center that would allow students to be able to come back and start taking some classes and you have access to the computers at the learning center.
Things like barriers, things like staff to disinfect it after each
Correct.
use. Right? Okay.
But as of right now, it's closed, and that's the reason why they're going to be able to do that at home, right?
Correct, online classes.
Okay. Anyone, none? Okay.
Okay, you're unmuted, Mike.
Motion to approve recommendation.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, motion by Councilmember Givens and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes,
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. All right, moving on to number 2, report extension on extending the proclamation of local emergency regarding novel coronavirus.
Certainly, so Mayor and Council, this is, again, we're asking to continue and extend the declaration, the proclamation of local emergency. This would be the second time you're extending that from the initial date of March 17th, which was when we first made the declaration. Although, and as we just mentioned, the economy and a lot of businesses are being open as the governor's plan continues to move forward in the 4 different stages. And also the county moves to reopening other businesses and services. Nevertheless, the county EOC remains active. And so we are recommending that we can
And it
continue
is.
and extend
It's
the
working.
proclamation of local
It's kind of-
emergency. Only one other city in Kern County, California City, has extended theirs, but the remaining 10 cities, including Shafter, still has theirs in effect. In a recent conversation during the county EOC briefing, I posed a question to the EOC manager about whether there would still be a need to have a proclamation in effect. And although the funding aspect, so you recall, in the past, we talked to council, some of the advantages of having a proclamation in place was the financial, being able to access federal monies in the event that there was real. Also having the ability to quickly respond to the crisis as we have with the closure of city services and at the same time putting a plan together as we return back to work. And the recommendation is that because the numbers are still showing that there might be having the proclamation in place would allow us to move quickly and make decisions quickly in response to the crisis should there be one. And so the powers and authorities that are granted under the proclamation. This is something that's critical to have this because we fall into the community, almost with the local control, we will be able to respond and then there's just that away with that COVID-19 pandemic. But otherwise, we'll people back to work, our services will open our services back up to the community, we'll bring the programs to come back online. The public health department provides guidance, but otherwise, for us, it's recommended extend the proclamation.
So I think for the record, that way residents have a clear understanding of this. This is the second or third time we have done this. Every time we've done this, it's been numerous calls on our end. We are not adding to the rules or extending rules or telling people they can or can't do something. This is strictly for the city's benefit to act quickly, to obtain financial aid with the CARES Act. We will do nothing else besides whatever Kern County Public Health is telling us.
Correct. Kern County has the state.
You guys get the same calls, I know that. So it'd just be better to have it on the record. We're changing nothing. This has nothing to do with what businesses are going through. We're not dictating what's being done with laws.
It's more to allow the city manager is your director of emergency services. It's to give the city manager the authority to issue any orders that he might need, specifically more for his own employees. And at the same time, receive some measure of wild declarations in place. There are certain additional immunities granted by California law for any actions he or any of his employees might take in response. So if there's a need to take any sort of response and action, they have that.
Having that on the record is priceless. We understand that we have survived, but it's a consistent thing that pre and post meetings to have these words on there. Calls and questions on why we're making life so much harder to do business, and it has nothing to do with that. So it's just really nice to have that
I'm not aware that we've issued any specific orders. We have not laid it all. We have the general public.
No, we have not, but it's just nice to have those words said here today.
And Mayor and Council, Councilmember Gibbons, that's a good point. We'll also disseminate information on our website and social media, just to reiterate what was mentioned tonight, that we're not adding restrictions or lifting, we're just simply doing it for the benefit of the local. So we'll make sure to put some information out for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that explanation. Okay, so we need a motion?
Make a motion to approve this grant. A second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Gibbons and second by Councilmember Garcia. Moving on.
I'm sorry, we need a roll call. Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
So you got the mute. Phones are working.
You hear us now?
We hear them.
You too, we have an asset.
And so you got to mute everyone else.
Okay.
Just allow Mike. If you're gonna come back to me.
Are we gonna just continue with the management reports, or how would you?
If they're ready to go, Mayor, I would ask you to go back to the public hearing in case there's
Okay.
anybody interested in anything.
All right, we'll go ahead and go back to public hearing number 1, which is the ordering the annual levy of assessment for landscape and lighting district.
Certainly. So again, Mayor and Council, this is administrative annual process that we have to adhere to impose the levy, and our Public Works Director, Michael James, will make the detailed staff report on that. Mike?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Amen. Okay. Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council, in order to fund existing landscaping lighting districts for next fiscal year, the city needs to perform an annual levy of assessment process. Prior to tonight's meeting, the council approved an engineer's report for each of the 12 districts listed in your staff report. The report detailed the cost of the districts and recommends assessments for the affected lots to properly fund them for the upcoming fiscal year. For all but one of the districts, an assessment increase of 3% is recommended, mostly to stay current with the most recent consumer price index increase. These types of increases are capped at 4% every year. So the expected assessment revenues and costs should be reflected in the draft fiscal year 2021 budget. In order to formally approve the annual levy assessments, the council is required to conduct a public hearing, which has been properly noticed by the city clerk. And at the conclusion of the hearing, consider adoption of resolution 2724. And if adopted, the assessments take effect July 1st. So at this time, Public Works is requesting that the council conduct the hearing and adopt the resolution. And of course, I could answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council?
Is there any public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you would need to open the public hearing, please.
All right. Public hearing is open for public hearing item number 1. And do we see anyone?
No, no one at this time. Sorry,
All right,
I
public
apologize.
hearing is closed. Now, back to council. Is there any questions for council? Seeing none, okay, may I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the grant. Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez and second by Councilmember Gibbons.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes, yes. And moving on to number 2 in public hearing, which is East Shafter Solid Waste Franchise Hauling Rate Increase.
Sorry, Mayor and Council, again, this is an annual administrative matter that's brought before you, consistent with the franchise agreement with the hauler. Again, our Public Works Director will make the staff report on that. Mike?
Yeah, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council, American Refuse and Varner Brothers were awarded exclusive solid waste franchise hauling agreements for a service area commonly known as East Shafter, which includes Minter Field, Gossamer Grove, and the wonderful industrial park. They service designated portions of East Shafter, but they follow the same rate plan. Their franchise agreements allow for increases to the service rates And the determination of the service rates is based on a formula also used by the county for their franchise haulers. It's tied to consumer price indexing and other economic and industry factors. And the formula this year is suggesting a 2.9% rate increase needs to go into effect by July 1st. So in order to formally approve the rate increase, a hearing and resolution adoption are required. And for your consideration tonight, staff has prepared Resolution 2725 that could be considered after the hearing. Unfortunately, I did not catch that the collection rates provided in the staff report, including the resolution exhibit, were zeroed out due to a spreadsheet error of mine. Hopefully, the city clerk was able to provide the council with an updated Exhibit A. These rates included in the updated Exhibit A reflect the proposed 2.9% increase. And so the amended resolution tonight should include the updated exhibit before it's considered for adoption. I'd like to also point out that representatives from both haulers, American Refuse and Varner Brothers, should be participating via Zoom tonight if the council or public has any questions or issues for them to address. And these haulers are providing necessary notice to the affected customers of the pending rate increase. And with that, I'm requesting that at this time that the council conduct the hearing and consider adoption of the amended resolution.
All right, thank you, Mr. James. We're going to go ahead and open this up to public hearing. So public hearing for this item is open.
Okay. So we do have two members on. So first I'll call on Jacob Panero.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and City Council members, I'm Jacob Panero, CEO of Varner Brothers, and we would just like to thank you again for the continued opportunity to service our area of the city of Shafter, and we would urge you to consider this rate increase as per the contract, and we appreciate your service. And if we have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, and now I will call on Linda Martin.
Hello, this is Jeff with American Refuse. I'm here to answer any questions if you guys have anything.
Jeff, how you doing? It's it's Manuel Garcia. Doing all right?
Yeah, we're doing all right. How about yourself?
Fine, fine. Hey, just real quick, my question is how do you handle things like if someone just dumps refrigeration or mattresses like on the properties where you're supposed to be picking up? How would you bill us for that, or how would you do that?
So your question is if we're picking up from a facility, like let's just say it was your house or something and someone dropped off some mattresses or something or a refrigerator. Usually if you give us a call and let us know, or our driver will notify our office and we'll reach out to you and make sure it's something that you do want to get rid of. We don't want to haul something off that you were leaving out for donation for somebody else. And we'll make arrangements and we'll come pick it up. Typically with the refrigerator, we have special handling with that. We can't just put it in our garbage truck due to the chemicals inside of it. But the mattresses, if they're recoverable, we will separate those and take those to the county where they can then be recycled. Otherwise, the rest of it will go to the landfill for trash.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Martin? Okay, seeing none. All right, thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else?
Not for this item, no.
Now, go ahead now. I'm going to open it up for council. Any questions from council on this item?
I have a question for Mr. Mike James. Hey, Mike, this is for East Shafter properties. What about the Central Core commercial properties? Nothing is changing with those folks, correct?
The Core City commercial franchise is a separate franchise, and it is not tied to the county formula that I was referring to. When the council adopted or approved the franchise, the Core City commercial franchise with American Refuse, it had a predetermined multi-year rate plan. So we're currently American Refuse is adhering to that 5-year rate plan, and there's no increase proposed at this time.
Thank you.
I just have one question. Mr. James, the question that Mr. Councilmember Garcia had mentioned to Mr. Martin, would that be with the city or would that be with Mr. Martin in the Core City?
Well, Mayor Alvarado, I think it would not, Mr. Martin, I believe, is offering a service that the city isn't in the best position to provide. And we've, in fact, through calls to city services and through social media outlets, we've offered American Refuge's collection service. I think there might be a small fee that comes with that, but we're offering that as an alternative for those who want to arrange a scheduled pickup or have American Refuge address something that's been illegally dumped. And I think Mr. Martin can address this further or correct me on this, but I think that, they were hoping to get on a set schedule, maybe once a month or every other Friday or something like that, as an alternative means of collecting bulky items that currently the city crews aren't staffed or funded to handle on a regular basis.
Okay, so there is a need for in the Core City or the refrigerator or mattress, and so we call American Refuge, not the city.
We would encourage the community, whether it's the residents or the businesses in the Core City, if they have an illegal dumping report or something they want to get rid of that they don't necessarily have the means to transport to the landfill or a free drop-off event, to reach out to American Refuse and arrange a special pickup if American Refuse is willing. We don't have, their franchise doesn't cover this particular service. This would be a service that Mr. Martin would be offering directly to the community. And I believe there is a cost that comes with that. And I think it was a pretty modest cost, but maybe Mr. Martin might have some more details on that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. James. Any other questions from council?
I just want to thank Mr. James for reaching out to Mr. Martin to coordinate that with the city and with them.
I may I get a motion, please.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Prout, second by Councilmember Gibbons.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. Okay, now we'll go to management report number 3, which is the grant agreement with the County of Kern for reimbursement of out-of-pocket costs related to COVID-19.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, by way of background, we know the federal government issued approximately $2 trillion in funding to help battle COVID-19 and the economic impacts and effects. Those monies were made available to businesses in different industries, schools, medical providers. Of that $2 trillion, the CARES Act also established $150 billion of coronavirus relief funds for state, county, municipal governments with populations of over 500,000 to address necessary expenditures incurred due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. The U.S. Treasury is the government entity overseeing and administering the coronavirus relief fund, and that they will administer those funds to state and local governments. Those state and eligible local governments have until December 30th, 2020 to expend those monies if they receive a pro allocation. Otherwise, if those monies are not spent, the U.S. Treasury will recoup those funds. Eligible expenses for that are necessary expenditures incurred due to the public health emergency in response to the COVID-19. Were not accounted for in the budget, most recently approved as of March 20, 2020 for the state, county, and municipal budget. and were incurred during the period that begins March 1st through December 30, 2020. Just in April, Kern County received $157 million in CARES funds. Of that, on May 5th, the Kern County Board of Supervisors approved the CARES Act and allocated $20 million to local cities. Of that, the city of Shafter is earmarked to receive approximately $698,000. We are planning to use those funds for reimbursement, consistent with the U.S. Treasury guidelines on expenditures. For example, additional personal protective equipment, expenses related to telecommuting, additional sanitation, which is what we're talking about, some of our facilities, and ongoing sanitation. Any public health order enforcement, for example, if we are assisting the public health department with our law enforcement and there was overtime incurred, that expenditure will be eligible under that. Eligible payroll expenses and other types of measures related and above and beyond in response to COVID-19. There are no fiscal impacts to the city. In other words, this money doesn't require a local match. This is money that's available for us for 100% reimbursement, so long as the expenditure is and meets the criteria as provided by the U.S. Treasury. And alternatively, the city council could not move forward and enter into an agreement with Kern County, whereby we then are basically forfeiting the $698,000. Staff is not recommending that as an option, but we are recommending that that you approve the grant agreement with the County of Kern for the reimbursement of out-of-pocket costs related to COVID-19, the amount of $697,994.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council?
This money, once reimbursed to the city of Shafter, does it go back in the general fund or is it go down into a different fund?
No, so the general fund will basically front the money, and then when we get reimbursed, it goes right back into the general fund. So this would be, most of this money is coming out of the unassigned. If you recall, when we did the budget presentation, we mentioned that we would get approximately 100,000 of expenditures. That 100,000 will get reimbursed, but it is coming out of the general fund. We're funding, the general fund is advancing the money. When we're reimbursed, the money will get put back into the general fund.
Good question.
Okay. All right. That was a good question. Other than just saying, he says coming out of the
Unassigned.
what's it called?
The unassigned.
Unassigned, right? Unassigned. So can't you create a category for a sign up to 700,000 or 800,000?
So we already are tracking those expenditures. So on the back end, on the accounting side, we've already have been tracking it on a separate line item. So we keep it separate and apart. So we have accurate accounting of the monies that we spent from the March date to present, so that we didn't lose track of that. So to your point, we've already carved out those monies separate and apart and have been tracking those expenses separately. So when we submit for reimbursement and we receive those monies, we'll basically reduce the amount in that line. And that's all the accounting that we get back into. But basically, we've been tracking it, so we know what dollars we paid out. So when the money comes in, we know where it is.
We might just go back and do this all again. In November, December. Things don't get better. So we have a line item for it.
Yeah, and for now, unless, there is a second wave or a third wave, the monies have to be expended by December of 2020. So unless the federal government extends that deadline, we should be looking to spend that money back.
Thank you very much. Any other members?
I have a question. Do you propose or do you feel like you really can reach that amount? Seems like an awful big amount.
It's a significant amount, but as you know, sanitizing buildings are not cheap. And right now,
Well, we spend a big chunk of.
that's what I'm saying, right? So the expenses will add up pretty quickly, and then we're going to hire our sanitation company, our cleaning company, to come in throughout the day at also facilities to do additional sanitation on an ongoing basis. And as Councilmember Stevens previously asked, the learning centers, an area that we would sanitize on a regular basis. Those are all expenses that we would bill, if you will, against these monies. So right now, we're probably close to about 100,000 plus in expenses. We have, I mean, that's probably the latest number, but I foresee that we're going to get very close to spending the 600 bucks.
I know we approved by tonight. It's too. So, yeah, that's good.
Okay. Seeing none, may I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, and a second by Councilmember Garcia.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes,
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. Moving on to number 4, Community Development Block Grant Home Investment Partnership and Emergency Solution Grant Program Fund Cooperative Agreement.
Sorry, Mayor and Council, the city has in past years participated in the county CDBG program, whereby the county administers the HUD monies that we receive. They are reviewing the program, and they reached out to see if the city of Shafter was wanting to continue that partnership. And so this item is related to basically renewing that arrangement with the county for them to continue to administer the CDBG funds that we receive on an annual basis. We basically fall under the county umbrella versus us doing it ourselves. If we were to do it on our own, then we would be basically applying to the state for the CDBG monies on a more competitive basis versus getting an entitlement from the county, which the county would not choose. And I think these monies, and Mike can speak more to it, have been applied towards capital projects in the past as either local match or to undertake other type of improvements citywide, like sidewalks in certain neighborhoods, parks, and swimming pool. So it does give the city some leverage when applying for other grants to use it as a matching funds when going after the other type of fund. So staff's recommending that we would go ahead and continue and renew that arrangement with Kern County for the CDBG.
All right, thank you. Any comments from council?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Prout, second by Councilmember Givens.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
yes,
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. Moving on to number 5, it's the state audit and consulting service.
Certainly, Mayor and Council. So as you know, we have retained balanced public relation to assist the city with some state matters related to the city facility. And so this is a not to exceed 6-month contract in approximately the amount of $18,666. In the event that we conclude the matter involving the lobby firm and the state prior to the 6-month period, obviously we would go on a month-to-month with the firm, so we have the option of noticing to terminate that contract sooner. But it is limited to a not to exceed both term. We could not move forward, but as you know, in these times, you need someone advocating for you and that knows and understands the legislative process. They may have relationships with key legislators, committees, and so we are recommending that we go ahead and enter into the consulting agreement with Balance Public Relations for state law and consulting services.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, may I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, second by Councilmember Garcia.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
yes,
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. Number 6, declaration of surplus property for 402 Central Avenue.
So, Mayor and Council, this is related to a recent law, AB 1486, that pertains to disposal of city assets, and our city attorney, Mark Martinez, will make.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. As you know, the city of Shafter owns real property located at the southeast corner of Central Avenue and Central Valley Highway. The property is currently developed with a new building along a linear piece of property. There has been some interest expressed by developers in possibly developing that property. However, in order for the city to entertain any such offers, it is necessary to first comply with the surplus property provisions of state law. There have been some changes to that state law that were effective January 1st. And what they require the city to do is to first declare it surplus property. That would then trigger a notice to the state of California so that they can then inform any low-income housing providers and open space advocates to potentially have interest in the property. If anybody does that, we would then be required to enter into negotiations with one of those entities for a period of 90 days. It doesn't mean we have to conclude those negotiations. It just means we have to enter into good faith negotiations on the property. However, given the fact that the property itself is somewhat difficult to work with because it's long and linear, it's adjacent to a railroad, it's adjacent to a major street, it's likely that we may not have any interest at all from any housing providers just because it's a difficult property to develop for housing. But this is the process that kicks that whole thing off, and that's to first declare it surplus, send notice to the state of California of its availability to serve this property, and see if there are any interested parties, interested housing parties first that want to take discussions with the city.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council?
Has notice or communication been given to current DC?
Don't believe so. We were waiting for council to take action tonight in the event that we get it.
What happens to that lease agreement then?
So, and I'm not, you can correct me wrong here, Michael, but doing the noticing doesn't require the city to actually sell the property, but we're just required to do the process. So, if in the event that after the 60 days, there's not an offer made by affordable housing builder or developer, then we move forward with the private sale. Then we were enter into discussions with that buyer, potential buyer, in terms of relocation of that tenant, or whether they assume the lease until they actually get ready to demo and construct. So those are details that we negotiate with the purchaser of that site.
You could also do nothing,
Right.
and just, but you will have complied with the statute and let the lease continue for as long as you like.
How long does, so you go through this process, 90-day process, 60.
60 is the notice. If somebody shows interest, it's a 90-day negotiation process.
So you go through the process in, we're in 2020. So you go through the process in 2020. Let's say we don't find a buyer until 2025. Do we have to go through this process again, or is it done? One-time deal, done?
That's why you once you go through the process, you don't have to sell, you don't have to do anything. You just need to go through the process and comply with the requirements.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, second by Councilmember Garcia.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes.
Do we have other properties like that?
We, in terms of real estate transactions that we are currently involved with, this is the only one that fell in that criteria. By way of example, one of the other properties, we already have the arrangement written. That after legal review, the city attorney's office determined that those were in effect prior to the law taking effect January 1.
So we have existing agreements on some of those other properties
You know
that
that.
create an exception to the requirements that were set in place on January 1st.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to number 7, and that's James Street Improvement Phase 2 Construction Project Award.
So the Mayor and Council, actually the next 3 items, our Public Works Director, Michael James, will be doing the presentation. So Mike.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council. Recently, staff opened bids received for the second phase of the James Street improvements to take place between Central Avenue and Shafter Avenue. We received 6 bids and they range from approximately $535,000 to $662,000. The lowest responsive bid was submitted by Central Valley Asphalt for approximately $535,000. They recently completed the most recent street construction project at Tulare Avenue, and they're based in Lindsay, California. This particular phase of the project can use up to $526,000 in federal transportation program funding that is reimbursed to the city at a rate of approximately 88%. So in order to maximize the federal funding, the project expenditures would need to reach approximately $595,000. We're not anticipating that this is going to be an issue. We've already identified additional walkway and street parking upgrades that could be addressed, similar to what was done for the first phase of the project that took place between Lerdo and Central Avenue. In order to fully fund this amount, plus engineering support costs such as geotechnical and survey support, a budget of $650,000 is recommended. To cover the local match required of $124,000, we could utilize unallocated gas tax or TDA roadway project funding. There would be no general fund participation. So Public Works would like to award the project to Central Valley Asphalt as soon as possible in order to get as much completed before school resumes, presumably this fall at Redwood Elementary and Richland Junior High. So with that, we're requesting authorization to proceed with the project as well as budget authorization to fund it. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. James. Any questions from council?
Who did phase 1?
Not Central Valley Asphalt. I don't have that in front of me, but I don't have that in front of me. I could find out fairly quick, but.
Yeah, I don't remember who did it. You know what? They did a good job, and they did it without. I mean, I know there was impact to businesses, but it didn't feel like as much concern as we had about the impact it was going to be on the businesses. It didn't feel like it was terrible. I don't remember who it was. They did a good job, and I'm hoping if we're awarding to Central Valley that they do the same thing here, because that first group seemed to do pretty well.
The first group was Cal Prime, and I think their cooperation was truly led to the successful outcome of phase 1. Fortunately, we have a good working relationship with Central Valley Asphalt, and we'll have the same team from the city covering the project. So I'm anticipating equally good results.
Okay. You like them, we like them.
All right. Anyone else? Hey, seeing none, may I get a motion, please?
Motion.
Got a motion by Councilmember Proud, second by Councilmember Givens.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. Moving on to number 8, rejection of proposal received for fleet maintenance facility design build project.
Mike?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Honorable Mayor, members of the Shasta City Council, Public Works requested proposals from contractors to design and build a project that would convert a former fabrication building that is located on what is now the new Corporation Yard site to a fleet maintenance, or basically a new shop. The project was intended to enclose the open structure, plus provide dedicated office and storage space for mechanics and Dollaride transit drivers. We ended up receiving 2 proposals, both of which are valued at approximately $1 million. Going into this process, staff had envisioned a cost of approximately $200,000. This was just based on a past design build project, the sports field house at Veterans Park to be exact. In the case of this particular fabrication building, the concrete and the building frame were already in place, but what was viewed as an asset was more like a liability, it turns out. Specifically, the height of the structure and the past use of the structure made customizing it obviously extremely expensive. Regardless of COVID-19 or the state of the economy, $1 million is not viewed as a cost-effective amount for this project. Therefore, Public Works is proposing to focus on alternatives for a new fleet maintenance building. In the short term, we could use an existing unoccupied building that is supposed to be part of the corporation yard site that is ultimately sold as surplus property. Long term, it looks like a new building will have to be constructed. Going into next fiscal year, there's $50,000 proposed to evaluate both the short-term and long-term options for this fleet maintenance building. So in order to move forward in that direction, it's prudent that we formally reject the design build proposals that have been received, and that allows us to move forward with the alternative solutions for the fleet maintenance building. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. James. Any questions from council? All right, seeing none, may I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Givens and second by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. Yes. Number 9, new water.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shasta City Council, Public Works completed a study to assess the need for updated water capacity fees. And these are also commonly referred to as connection fees that are typically charged to new development that wish to be serviced by the city for water. The fees were last updated in 2012 when a 5-year fee schedule was adopted. And so that we've reached the end of that 5-year period. And currently we charge a citywide fee of $3,310 for every single family equivalent of water use. The new study bases the recommended fee on which part of the service area a new connection will take place. And we've identified 3 service areas, which are the core city, Southeast Shafter, which includes the wonderful industrial park, and East Shafter, which includes Minter Field. The service area breakdown approach is what was used for the wastewater capacity fees that the council adopted last year. And it reflects the infrastructure needs of each service area. So if a certain connection in a certain connection in a certain area is only investing in the infrastructure that's been deemed necessary to serve them. So the recommended fee schedule is included with your staff report. Formal adoption of the fee schedule must be done via an ordinance, and included with your agenda packet is Ordinance 717. We're specifically proposing a first reading tonight. A second reading can occur in July, and the fees can officially take effect in August after a 30-day waiting period. Before the council considers the first reading, I'm going to request that allow for oral or written testimony regarding the proposed fees to be presented to the council. This item was advertised like a public hearing, even though it's not listed on your agenda packet as a public hearing. And because it was advertised for tonight's meeting, I think it's appropriate for the city clerk to formally state if there's been any written testimony or if there's anyone on the line that wishes to address the council regarding these fees. And has the city clerk received any written testimony or oral testimony regarding the fees?
No written testimony or oral testimony has been received at this time.
Thank you. And given that, I'd like to make sure that the city clerk reflects this finding in the meeting minutes. Unless there are any questions or issues from the council, Public Works is requesting the first reading of Ordinance 717.
All right, thank you, Mr. James. Any questions from council? Seeing none, may I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Givens and second by Councilmember Garcia.
Councilmember Givens,
Aye.
Lopez,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
and Alvarado.
Yes. And moving on to city manager's comments and reports.
Sorry, Mayor and Council, just a few updates. County EOC as part of the COVID testing sites, they just established a site in Wasco at the library there. Just information to the public. As you know, we returned back to work last Monday on the 8th. Business is as back as usual as possible. We haven't had a lot of pushback. We are following our guidelines and procedures. We also do have the walk-up window to the rear of the building that is occasionally being used, but it does offer an alternative for anybody that don't want to wear a mask and may forget their mask, but still want to conduct business. They're not forced to go back home to get their mask or whatever the case may be. Dial ride, we are looking to be equal. We went operational yesterday. We have put certain, again, safety measures in place. We're going to be submitting under the CDBG CARES funding of the $93,000 for mobile sanitation unit that would allow us to use on the buses for the drivers and our employees to sanitize the buses on a regular basis. We did send a letter consistent with council direction for civic organizations, Kiwanis, Rotary, Lions, and the Chamber of Commerce about their interest to participate. The assistant to city manager, Rachel, is informing that a couple of them have responded in terms of wanting to collaborate. So we're going to follow up with the other two, see where they stand and where they might be way to help. But so far, it's been a positive response in that regard. 4th of July is coming up upon us. Already we're getting calls about illegal fireworks. And so with that, I'm going to transition to permission, Mayor and Council, for Chief Zimmerman to provide a verbal update of the efforts that both PD is doing, as well as his collaboration with the Kern County Fire Department, which is the agency we contract with, and what they may be planning to do on the enforcement side as well. So, Chief Z.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Mayor, members of the council. During the last month, we have seen a marked increase in the use of illegal fireworks throughout the city. As your chief, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Okay, is that too loud? Okay, as the chief, I can tell you that I have dedicated and will continue to dedicate staff to the enforcement effort. And I would strongly encourage anybody listening or in the room to give the police department a call at 746-8500 if you see anybody using these illegal fireworks. I'm proud to tell you that in the last month or so, we've caught several violators, and we've submitted those cases to the district attorney for review relating specifically to the use of these illegal fireworks. The city manager mentioned our partnership with the fire department. We've reached out to them and confirmed that they still have a separate process that carries with it the potential for a $1,500 fine for those caught using illegal fireworks. So we're excited to partner with them in that way. I can tell you that these fireworks are really more than just disruptive. They represent a fire danger and a potential injury risk for some of these folks that have never used this type of product before. So at the police department, we are very eager to limit any negative possibilities. I'll close by confirming that we are receiving calls in all sections of the city. So this isn't really in one area, but I will tell you that we're all aware that this is not uncommon during this time of year, but they still pose a serious danger if they're not handled properly. So that's where we're at with it.
Hey, Chief. So I've had a handful of requests of folks who have said they've called into the PD to get a resolve. Some of them are saying that they physically saw people doing it, but because the PD was not able to see the people doing it, they wouldn't take action on it. A few of them have said that they want some type of written report from the resident or some type of affirmation agreement from the resident, stating whatever the case may be before they can talk about taking action. Is there truth to that? And if so, how do we get around that? Because I don't want frustrated residents having to come to us and say they're calling, but they're not getting a resolve. It's the same neighbor doing it every night. multiple times.
Thank you for the comment. I can tell you that our best weapon against these things are direct witness accounts. So when and if we get there and they're willing to give us a witness account of what occurred, then we're supposed to, and I will make sure that we take that report and submit it for review at the DA's office. If we have a witness, then it's infinitely much easier for us to prosecute. But more times than not, they just hear the fireworks and they haven't seen where they're coming from. So we have to go to the area and kind of saturate the area with the folks that, the police officers that we do have, in the hopes that we do see them. And that's how we caught some of those other instances that I'm talking about. So to answer your question, if they're willing to be a witness, then we should be willing to take the report, submit it to the district attorney for review.
I think it would be wise if we put some type of social media post out to say, you know, this is why we ask the way we ask, and this is how you and the community can help us combat the illegal fireworks. So that way, when these residents are told, hey, you give us a signed report, they understand that the reason behind that is what you're trying to accomplish, right? Stopping illegal fireworks. So at least there's a document that shows the reasons why and what we need people to do to help.
Yes, sir.
That was something that I was just talking about. I was just about to say, something in Facebook or some kind of campaign saying that we maybe from the police department, if somebody from the police department could come on Facebook saying how we're against the illegal fireworks, just some type of campaign.
More than word, maybe actual visual. You know, somebody's the chief on camera having that conversation about it, something.
Some short of it.
Yes, we agree.
We're against that, or the city's not for it, something.
Even the nice ones that show color? No, I'm just kidding.
All illegal.
I've been riding my bike, I've been seeing them.
Some of them are so loud that I can hear them 2 miles away and feel them around my house.
Oh,
It's
man.
unbelievable.
So, okay.
We'll follow up on that.
Thank you. Has your animal shelter increased in capacity because of this? I've been told a lot of animals are leaving their homes quite quickly.
Oh, they go crazy. You gotta watch them.
Well, that happens every year. Councilmember Gibbons.
It's a little year for it though.
I can assure you that that's happening in all of the neighborhoods in Bakersfield as well. It's a common problem. But I can assure you that in Shafter, we do everything we can to try and catch those that are willing to use these types of mortar fireworks.
All right, thank you very much. City Manager.
Nothing further.
Okay.
Mike,
I do have a question for Mike James if he's still on.
Mike,
I mean-
sorry, do you have an update? And Councilmember Gibbons has a question for you.
You can start with the question.
Had a resident ask about basketball hoops at Rodriguez Park and if we're going to reinstall them. Did we take them off or did a resident take them off?
Yeah.
We took them off, Councilmember Gibbons, and I suspect we're going to have an executive team meeting tomorrow morning to talk about the return to park operations. And I suspect you'll see that hoop back by this weekend.
Fantastic news.
And you know, Mike, it's Manuel, real quick, how about the park with the water? Is that, because next week it's gonna be in the high, you know, in the hundreds, all next week. So maybe if you can look at that and see where we're at on the water park.
That'll be on our agenda too. I think you'll have an update by Friday as far as what our plan is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, Mike and Gabriel, on this thing, when and if this information comes about, can you please put some social media?
Certainly.
So the residents know about this, because I get quite a bit of questions about the same thing. And we'll just put it on social media, just educational wise, and just keep them updated. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Zermano's mayor's made us aware that she's available to distribute information once we're able to provide it. If I may, I wanted to, on representing Public Works, I just wanted to mention briefly that on the topic of water conservation for the past month of May, we produced 16% less water than the same month in 2013, which was 7 years ago, pre-drought. So we're obviously continuing to use less water, which is a good thing. And then on street maintenance, in response to the matter of weeds at Laredo Highway, at the median, specifically west of Cherry Avenue, which was discussed at last night's budget workshop. Public Works will be developing a routine weed abatement plan starting this summer. And I understand some progress was probably made as early as today. So hopefully that's looking better over there. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. James. City Manager?
That's it for
All right, may I get a, okay, we're gonna go into recess, into closed session. First item on there is Director of Public Service. Item 2 is conference with labor negotiator. Then can we get a motion to go into recess?
Motion to recess.
A motion by Councilmember Gibbons, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. All in favor?
Aye.
We're now in closed session.
Yes, give me one moment.
So now
Hey, Johnny, I can't verify if I'm muted. I don't think I'm muted, but I can hear me on.
What is wrong with this guy?
Yasmina, can you hear me?
Yasmina. Okay.
She
It's
got
gone.
it.
Yeah, she got it.
Continue recording. Okay. Okay, I think we are good to go.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the city attorney Martinez to report out.
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned earlier today, the city council recessed into closed session. All members were present. There were two items on tonight's agenda. There was a threat to public services concerning the impacts of public facilities and services in the city of Shafter. There was also a conference with labor negotiators with respect to both items. City council heard a presentation from its staff regarding those items, and we have no report of action.
All right, thank you very much for that. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Councilmember Givens, and then we have a second by Councilmember Proud. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Yeah, there's this stuff. Oh, there's a lot of stuff.
Thanks, Johnny, for covering.
And the wrong.
Ah.